see some of you guys here already in the comments with some questions. So welcome, welcome, welcome to all the people who are watching the live replay. If you guys are interested in your own natal chart reading or progressed natal chart reading, the information for all of that is going to be in the description box below. You guys can go on my website underneath the readings tab, and then an email window will pop up. You guys can send me an email and we can go from there. So let's see what questions you guys have for us today. We're going to be going over astrology questions, natal chart questions, and if you guys have any metaphysical questions, feel free to comment below as well. Welcome. Hey Riley, I'm so glad that you are here. Hey Britopia, hey Dave. Okay, so I'm gonna go in order of the question. So Dave says, hey, good to see you live. Nice to see you as well. You said if you get a chance, can I give you my take on Pluto entering someone's fourth house? Yes. So Pluto going into your fourth house, you're gonna be going through changes and transformations through the home. Okay, so maybe you're gonna have some things come up in terms of your upbringing, the relationship with the mother. If it's not the mother, it's going to be the dominant feminine role in your life. Now keep in mind, it's a long transit, right? It's 19 years. So because of that, it's not going to be overnight. It's going to be changes incrementally through those 19 years. Now, Pluto in the fourth house gives you the undertone of having a Scorpio moon. So now that you have this undertone energy, maybe you're going to have some psychic gifts come online, mediumship gifts. It's all about like that emotional change and turmoil on that emotional level is really, really what that is when Pluto is going through your fourth house. Nothing to be feared. It's going to be, again, a longer transit. Also, what I'm going to say is maybe you're going to have unconscious fears come to the surface, things to do maybe with your emotions, emotional things that have taken place. Like it's all these things are coming out of your unconscious to be looked at and cleared during this time. Hey, 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 welcome everyone. How are you guys doing? You said even though it's a 20-year transit, yeah, you'll feel it, especially if you're tuned in. You're going to feel the changes happening already slowly, but I feel like a lot of people freak out when they hear Pluto. They think it's going to be intense change. Pluto is the god of the underworld, right? So it's incremental, like it's behind the scenes. It's subtly changing things. Sometimes you don't even notice. It's good. A lot more people know about astrology now, so it's going to be easier for people. Welcome, welcome, welcome to everybody joining. Oh, good question, Lucy. Okay, where in your natal chart can you look to? So I will get to everyone in just a second at the top. I'm just at the bottom now. You said where in your natal chart can you look to if you're wanting to drop music albums to get visibility? Honestly, usually it's going to be transits. So either you have 10th house placements in your natal chart. You can also look to see what's happening with your 10th house for visibility. Also, you can look to see if there's anything that's transiting your 10th house as well. Okay, so it's always 10th house in terms of like being seen in that way. It could be 5th house as well, absolutely. Although 5th house is more so to do with creativity. The 10th house is out there. Also, it could be 11th house. So maybe if you have 11th house transits taking place, or if you have like 11th house placements, let's say you have 11th house Jupiter, like Jupiter's in your 11th house. This could be like an online following, for example. So it could be one of these placements. Let's see what else you guys saying in here. I'm glad you were able to join. Okay, thoughts on Pluto leaving 10th house career into the 11th house. Hold on one second. Did you reword your question? Can you reword your question? Is Pluto leaving your 10th house and now going into your 11th house? And you want to know what your career is? You said any thoughts on Moon and the 12th house and Pisces? Yeah. Okay, so here's the thing. Anytime you guys have any 12th house placements in your natal chart, you're closing out that cycle in this lifetime. So it's carried over karma, carried over gifts, carried over things like that you didn't get to finish in a past life. So for example, when you got Moon in Pisces could be psychic gifts that you're carrying over into this lifetime from a past life. It could be creative gifts. It could be healing gifts. It could be the relationship with the mother as well. Maybe some form of addictions you're also carrying over into this lifetime as well that you're closing out in this particular lifetime. So that's Moon in the 12th house, super psychic, super intuitive, psychic, creative, intuitive, like that's all in those higher metaphysical realms. So really the whole, I guess, word of advice for that type of energy is see how can you ground it into this physical plane, like find some sort of maybe creative outlet or writing or whatever it is. Let's see what else you guys saying in here. Pluto in the 10th house, what would you like to know? Are you asking about it as a placement in your natal chart or it transiting your 10th house? Hey, how are you guys? I'm glad that you guys are here. You said, so Riley said, hi, how are you? You said you just realized that when using the Placidus system, you have an Aquarius rising 29 degrees and Saturn's conjuncting your IC and Gemini. How would I interpret that energy? So Aquarius rising people, so funny. I just put a little image of a person on my story today because like Aquarius rising people are always unique, completely different, and it's all about embracing this aspect of yourself. So it's, if there's something like you want to express yourself in a certain way, whether that is through the way you dress or your hair or your hairstyle, that's Aquarius rising. So it's like your whole identity is Aquarius when people first meet you. Now, I'm curious to know what's in your 12th house as well. And then you said you have Saturn conjuncting your IC and Gemini. So Saturn's probably in the 4th house for you. I have a video on that on my YouTube channel because there's so much to say. There's a lot of karma. So when you have Saturn in the 4th house, any 4th house placements give you the undertone of having that moon energy. It doesn't mean your moon sign now changes. It just means you take on some of that energy. So what does this mean? Saturn is Capricorn, ruled by Capricorn. So Saturn in the 4th house gives you the undertone of having a Capricorn moon, okay? So what does this mean now? Well, when you were growing up, maybe the mother was cold, or maybe the parents were elderly with Saturn in the 4th house. Maybe you were raised by grandparents. Maybe the mother was very traditional, or maybe it was a very traditional home. Maybe there was a huge focus on money within the home, like scarcity mindset around money. Maybe it wasn't there, but maybe it was there, and now you've internalized a lot of these beliefs. So a lot of the time, these people are always trying to hustle, get to the top, you know, make that money, make those gains. Like you'll always hear these types of people like using this kind of lingo, okay? And then your ICs in Gemini, maybe the home was like unpredictable with IC in Gemini. Maybe it was like there was a lot of people that were coming through, because that also now gives you the undertone of having a Gemini moon, okay, whatever you guys have in your 4th house. So IC in Gemini, now in your internal world, it's Gemini, right? So you might be someone who wants to, you know, like have a lot of friends or know a lot of things. You might get bored easily. You might drop projects easily. A lot of the time for IC and Gemini, or people who have Gemini moon or overall Gemini in the 4th house, for these people, like when they're kids, the home is kind of like a revolving door. So there's a lot of people and characters that are coming and going. So as a child, you kind of learn to adapt to all these different types of characters. So now when you're older, that's why, you know, people joke around and they say Geminis have multiple personalities, is because of this, okay? Because from a young age, depends where you have Gemini in your chart, but in the moon sign, it's in your emotional world, okay? So also, another thing too for Gemini, either in the moon or in the IC, these people might have immature parents, emotionally immature when you're growing up. So it's kind of like you're left there to your own defenses to fend for yourself. Maybe they were busy, your parents, doing this, doing that. Maybe they didn't pay too much attention to you. Maybe they were emotionally mature, whatever it was, but you were kind of left there to figure things out for yourself, basically. Welcome, welcome, welcome to all the people joining. How are you guys doing? You're asking as a placement. Okay, so for Pluto in the 10th house, so this is change and transformation through your career, the public life, the people you are interacting with. You know, a lot of the time for 10th house placements, you can really see the way someone posts on social media, what's going on with their 10th house. So when you have Pluto in the 10th house, it kind of gives you like the undertone energy of almost having Scorpio in the 10th house. So what is this? You might be very secretive when it comes to social media. Obviously, it depends on the rest of your natal chart, but you might be super private. You might change your accounts a lot. You know, those people who post something and then like a few months later, they archive it and then they unarchive, or like they change the usernames a lot, very much like Pluto in the 10th, because it's like these people are absorbing a lot of energy from the collective. Like, let's say they're posting a lot. So for these people, especially anyone who has like water energy, even if you have like maybe Cancer in the 10th house as well, or even Pisces, you know, for these types of people, because social media is a lot of energy absorption, it could be beneficial to like streamline your energy, you know what I mean? So maybe just talk about fashion, or maybe just talk about cooking. You know the people who talk about everything, that might be too energetically draining for you. So unconsciously what these people do is they post, they take it off, they create a new account, they shut this one down, because they're also changing. So also Pluto in the 10th house, Pluto can also tell you maybe some form of trauma you may have had in that house. So for example, maybe you want to be a public person, or you want to post publicly, or whatever it is, but maybe something happened when you were younger that maybe restricted that for you. That's the whole thing. So you guys can see Pluto as like a pendulum swing, or wherever you guys have Scorpio in your natal chart. You go through some form of catharsis or crisis in this particular place, okay? So for you, it's gonna be in the 10th house. So what does this mean, right? You go through this extreme, maybe when you're young, again, maybe somebody shut this off for you, maybe it was a public person or someone who was in like a more authoritative position, like a father, or maybe like your teachers or whoever it was, right? Someone who was in that higher up position, like your authority, could have shut you down from a young age, but within you there's this like desire, right? So you kind of have to go through this like whole pendulum swing of like from this extreme, maybe you go into extreme hiding, maybe then you post everything online, and then eventually you kind of find this like happy medium. And then also for people who have Pluto in the 10th house, you're helping the public transform, and you're also transforming through the public, if that makes sense as well. And that could also resonate for Scorpio midheaven people as well. Welcome to the people joining. How are you guys doing? Grand Cross, I'd have to make a video on that. Let's see. I'm just going back up to see if I missed anybody. Thanks for the likes, you guys. Let's see. How to overcome anxiety. How would that be indicated in a natal chart? Oh my gosh, that's so funny. Well, not funny, but interesting, because earlier today I was doing something and then I saw that I had posted an anxiety video from a metaphysical perspective. So I'm going to share that under my community some point this week, but you can search it up. I think it's called like how, or like what anxiety is from a metaphysical. It's metaphysical because I am not a psychologist or a medical professional. It's always my disclaimer, so you guys can take what resonates and leave behind what does not. But the way that I see anxiety, and I have to rewatch that video too because I don't remember what I said, but because it was almost like, I think a little over a year ago, maybe it was even 2022, but anyways, it's all a blur now. So anxiety, the way that I see it is like you're energetically open, okay? So, energetically open, what does this mean? Maybe you're not confident in yourself as a person, or it's usually connected to the solar plexus chakra. Maybe it's substances that open you up. Maybe it is just being young and unaware, like whatever it is, okay? So you're energetically open. So because you're energetically open, in combination with that, you're also sensitive, okay? So maybe you have water placements or something of that sort. So you're picking up on energies at all times. That's how I see anxiety, okay? So that's one of the ways that I see anxiety. It's you picking up on other people's energies because you are energetically sensitive. So that's one thing, okay, with anxiety. Another thing sometimes with anxiety is, if we look at anxiety as the solar plexus chakra, you can also look at it as like someone's maybe taking your power away. Sometimes when we're waiting for something, that also gives us anxiety. Waiting for a reply from someone, waiting for, a job to respond back to us. So that sometimes puts us into an anxiety energy as well. Now, another thing too with anxiety, sometimes the way that I also tap into it is, it depends sometimes like the vibrational frequency, let's say, of a person, place, or thing. So like, let's say you're vibrating at a higher frequency, and I don't mean this in a hierarchical way at all. It's just some people are higher vibrational, especially like the younger generations are more energetically sensitive. So they're higher vibrational, let's say, than the plane, or like maybe people who just are unaware and these types of things. So maybe those people are operating more so out of their lower chakras in terms of like their own fear. So maybe you're picking up on that person's fear. Maybe there's this. Or sometimes the way that I also pick up on anxiety too is it's letting me know that like I'm maybe not meant to be in that place. Like let's say I feel into something and I'm thinking to myself and I'm like, should I go to that event, or should I go to that store, or whatever it is, okay, something like this. And I feel into it, like clairsentiently, I picture myself there and I feel into it. If it gives me anxiety, it's saying to me it's like a vibrational mismatch, okay? So there's this aspect of it as well. So those are a few things. If you want to learn more, check out that video. You're welcome. Yay, I'm glad that Pluto in the 10th house resonated. Another thing with anxiety, so maybe another question you guys might have in terms of anxiety, then the question is, how do you close your aura, okay? Because if your aura is open, let's say also like you drink a lot of coffee and then you don't get enough sleep, that can also make you porous. So the way that I see it is like you're energetically open or energetically porous. So sometimes, you might pick up on more anxiety if you didn't get enough sleep, for example. It could be this. So you really have to learn yourself to see like what gives you anxiety, first of all, right? And then go from there and see, are you picking up on it from another person? Did you not get enough sleep? Is it from some form of substance that like maybe is opening you up energetically, like alcohol or drugs or whatever it is? So you said that's what you do too much. You feel into so many scenarios. Yeah. Let's see. The more you guys trust your intuition, the less you guys are going to have to tap into all the outcomes. So like, here's the thing, like people who have, let's say like a lot of Scorpio energy, Scorpio becomes psychic because in a way they're hypervigilant, because when they're younger, what happens is like something takes place in their environment where like the external world isn't matching their internal world, right? So basically what happens is like, or anybody, it doesn't just have to be Scorpio placements, but anybody who is hypervigilant, they become hypervigilant because it's like, there was like kind of like this moment where, again, something wasn't matching vibrationally or just like what you were thinking or believing and these types of things, right? So because of this, right, because you might be, experiencing this now, from there, you might be now constantly thinking of like every possible outcome. Oh, okay, if I go to this, I can do this and all these outcomes can happen. Or if I do this, all these outcomes can happen. And that can be very mentally draining. So the more you start to trust your intuition, the more you'll start to learn that like whatever your initial thought about something, the gut reaction, the more we heal, like all these types of things, right? You'll kind of get less sucked into these lower vibrational maybe situations or like, patterns where you're trying to think of everything. I hope that makes sense. Let's see. I use the Placidus tropical system. I'm just going back up. Okay, Pluto going into the 11th house for Pluto in Aquarius. So wherever you guys have Pluto going through, okay, and I actually have Pluto videos coming out, but they're probably not going to be out for a while, okay? But so when I post those videos are going to be for people who have those placements in their chart, but you can look at it for the transits as well, okay? So when I post the video on, let's say, Pluto and the 11th house, yes, people who have Pluto in the 11th house can watch it, but also you can watch it if it's transiting your 11th house, because it'll tell you some themes that might be taking place. So for Pluto going through your 11th house during this time, let's say you're going through change and transformation when it comes to the higher mind, your ideas. Maybe you want to, be an activist or philanthropy, but at the same time, like Pluto brings through some form of crisis or trauma at the same time. And I'm not saying everyone's going to go through trauma. It could just be maybe like a trauma that you had when you were younger comes to the surface. For example, maybe you want to really help people and put yourself out there, for example, but maybe there's something holding you back, and then you might have to resolve this crisis within. So Pluto kind of goes like this. Any Scorpio energy, even when you guys have Scorpio going through a particular house, okay? So the Scorpio energy goes like this. That's why it's extreme and it's intense. It goes into this intensity, and then it goes into this intensity, and eventually it neutralizes in the middle. Now Pluto is also going to tell you guys like the area maybe where your power was taken away from you. It could be this, but also through the whole like journey of Pluto, you actually have to basically come into your power in that particular area. So in the 11th house, it's going to be the house of humanitarianism, maybe futuristic ideas, just being futuristic, being unique, friends, all these types of things. No way, you said you're an artist and a therapist. Well, that's great. Let's see what else you guys seeing in here. Saturn, Neptune, Uranus in the 12th house, and it's all in Capricorn. That's super, super karmic. So you're in that subset of the millennials that has that particular conjunction, Saturn, Neptune, and Uranus. I feel like a lot of these people are finally going to get a breath of fresh air when Pluto goes into Aquarius, because I feel like a lot of these people were really clearing a lot of karmic things, a lot of generational things, a lot of just like junk energetically, because basically what was taking place is like Pluto was going through all these planets for you guys, and now on top of that, it's like maybe you guys were breaking down certain traditions. Maybe the parents were super traditional. Maybe it was like the way that that subset looked at the leadership, for example. What is leadership? A lot of these people maybe want to have their own businesses. So I have a video on that on my YouTube channel as well. That one is called The Leaders of Tomorrow, I believe. This subset of the generation that have Neptune and Uranus in Capricorn. So some of them have the Saturn in Capricorn. Some people have Saturn in Aquarius. And then some of them are actually Gen Z as well, with Pluto and Sag. But that's that subset, that's that sandwich, because those are generational planets. So that's kind of like what this subset of the generation is kind of here to anchor in, okay? So a lot of these people are going to either start coming into leadership roles from Pluto and Aquarius onwards, or they're going to be leaving the system and kind of creating whatever it is that they're creating that's their own. So from a young age, for example, maybe you wanted to start your own business with that energy, or maybe you did, but maybe it's just taking some time, because Capricorn is time, especially having Saturn in Capricorn. Now, it being in your 12th house, this adds a whole like different layer to this entire story, because like the house affects you more. So with the generational planets, okay? So the signs in here are generational. You're going to share that with other people in the generation and the subset of the generation. But the house is going to be you in particular. So having Capricorn in that 12th house, maybe there's a lot of generational things overall that you yourself are clearing for the family line, for example, okay? Saturn in the 12th, maybe there is like a pattern with authority with, let's say, the father, or let's say your teachers or managers that you're breaking through, for example, just as a random example. Neptune in the 12th can be an inventor, especially with Uranus in the 12th. You're going to be super psychic and intuitive. Like, you're going to be able to tap into the other side. Maybe you're going to have futuristic ideas. Maybe you're going to make up some sort of new invention or app or tech thing, whatever it is. But overall, 12th house is creative. So it could be music. It could be anything like this. Okay. So the thing is, like, what I've noticed in terms of like what people end up doing, it kind of depends where the collective is at. So it's kind of like the collective is energetically deciding what's popular for that time. So for example, we were in the age of Pisces. So in the age of Pisces, the entertainment industry was very popular. So a lot of people that were anchoring in the new vibrations were coming through the music industry, for example, okay? Now we're going into age of Aquarius, so that's going to be a little bit different. That's going to be more so ideas and futuristic way of thinking, and maybe just speaking and sharing, and maybe tech and innovation. So that's kind of how it works. You also want to see what's happening in the time, because like energetically the collective is also deciding, let's say, what's important and popular, and then your energy is going to play into that. I hope that makes sense. Hey everyone, welcome. You said this Pluto in Capricorn was crazy. You said you have Capricorn ascendant 12 degrees, but your first house in Placidus is huge with 7 planets in it, all through Aquarius until Pisces. You hope you get a break. Okay, I'm just going back up. I will get to everyone at the bottom in just a second. You said you've previously been using a whole sign system and seeing stuff so exact on your IC, so it made the Placidus stand out. You said, would you think of having Mercury and Venus before your sun or after a better scenario? Can you reword your question? Let's see what else you guys saying in here. How would money for someone with Pisces ruling the 2nd house with Aries intercepted and Moon conjunct Saturn in the 2nd intercepted in Aries? Okay, I would have to look at that entire chart to see what's going on. But Pisces in your 2nd house, you can make money through art. You can make money through anything creative. You can make money through the metaphysical world, being a psychic, being an intuitive, maybe even astrology, depending on the rest of the chart. What else? It could be music, it could be film, it could be theater, it could be screenwriting, all these things. With that Aries energy, because it is intercepted, you probably want to lead, start something, maybe start your own business, but you're going to have to work harder, okay? When you have an interception, you have to work harder to pull the energy out, okay? Let's see, what else are you guys saying in here? I did natal Pluto in the 10th. You said, do you know much about people projecting their energy and how to protect ourselves against people who do this to us? Absolutely. Okay. It's so interesting because right before this live, like earlier today, I was actually thinking, and I've said this before, maybe in previous lives, I feel like a lot of things that happen on this earth plane are just energy that's moving around and moving through people. So what do I mean by this? It's like, let's say, right? Like, let's say your parents act a type of way. Well, maybe that's not even them, because the energy could just be moving through them, and it could be from the grandparents, like kind of like ancestral. I hope that makes sense. Or let's say it's like your colleague or whatever it is. This is why self-awareness is important. And also it's really important to know yourselves and know maybe your wounds, because like what tends to happen is, like, let's say you have a wound or a soft spot. Usually it's like a moth to a flame. So like, let's say your soft spot is like, I don't know, maybe you just like feel sorry for people. If like, I don't know, maybe pick up on like an abandonment wound within them, and like maybe the abandonment wound is like them never having had a family, and then like energetically, like maybe you feel like, you know, this like urge to nurture these people. Let's say you're a Cancerian person, for example, just like a random example, okay? Let's say you're a Cancerian person, because that's usually a Cancer wound, okay? So like, let's say you feel this urge to like nurture these people, but who knows, maybe it's an energy vampire. Maybe it is someone with narcissistic tendencies. Maybe it's someone who doesn't necessarily have the best intentions. So I feel like as we're going into the higher vibrations, people who have like a lot of light energy, people who are just like naturally healing, or just like overall like doing the work within themselves and just vibrating higher, there is going to be a lot more of this like darker people being attracted to your energy. Because what's happening right now is like energetically, like the people who don't really want to do the work, like they're trying to hold on to whatever they can. And the whole thing that's metaphysically happening here, and the way that I see it, is like people who have a lot of light energy a lot of the time have some form of connection to source, God, creator, the divine, whatever term you want to use. So it's like the people who don't necessarily see that within themselves want to cling onto the people who have the light energy. I hope that makes sense. So these other people, let's say they're more in like their shadows, their shadow traits, what they have to realize is that that energy is within them as well. So it's like boundaries are going to be super important. Again, knowing yourself, like knowing like maybe like where you kind of like, again, might have these like soft spots for people to like hook into, because it's all happening energetically. You know what I mean? Like people, I don't think people consciously do this, but like they can pick up on these things like more so energetically, right? So it's going to be really, really important going forward, because otherwise these people are going to pull you down. And I don't know why it's like that with dark energy. Like it's almost like the dark energy sometimes is so strong that it really pulls people down. This is why we're like in a spiritual WAR. It's constant, like it's this constant like push pull of like trying to go into like the higher vibrations, the positive energy, like being more healed and these types of things, and like constantly people trying to pull you down. Obviously, like eventually I think this is going to neutralize, but for now this is what's going to happen, because it's like the people are going to hold on to, or like are trying to hold on to the old way of being. They don't want to do the work because it's not comfortable, but it is what it is, right? That's that Plutonian energy, okay? So that's all you really can do in terms of like protecting yourself from people projecting their energy onto you. Like that's on them, it's not really on you. Let's see what else you guys saying in here. You said it's like a Green Mile, they kill you with your love. Ooh, let's see. You said Cancer stellium triggered. I felt like that message was for somebody. I know, like, I know when I give random examples, like, I know that it's like for somebody out there, or like maybe someone watching the replay. Oh my gosh, Angelina, hey, how are you? What's going on? I'm just going back up. In 12 with Placidus, you have Uranus and Neptune. With whole sign, you have Capricorn, Moon in the 12th house. What would you like to know about that? Where can you find your purpose and talents with astrology? You have a Gemini rising. Okay, so you can look at like general things, but really what you want to do is you want to look at the whole chart and see what's happening. That's the way that I see it in terms of like life purpose. Let's say there's like a pattern in terms of houses. Let's say there's something happening with your numerology as well. I look at that for people as well, because I've noticed that there tends to be like the coding in terms of their day number and their life path number, and also in their astrology. So for example, with someone, let's say, who's a Gemini rising, maybe you're born on the 21st, or you're born on a 3-day, or your life path adds to 3, for example, okay? As an example. So if this is you, well, now the energy is already kind of playing out where it's like part of your life purpose is communication, speaking. And a lot of the time you'll see you tend to struggle in that exact area as well. Maybe you have a Scorpio Mercury, maybe Scorpio is occupying your 3rd house, maybe a Pluto in the 3rd house, just as a random example, okay? So you'll see whatever like the, let's say stellium in your natal chart is, whatever like the cluster of energy is, that's usually tied into your life purpose, okay? But overall, for general things, the rising is going to be kind of like how you present yourself to the world. You can look at your north node, absolutely. But with north node, what you guys want to do is you guys want to see the south node, because the south node is what you mastered in a past life. So you want to look at the south node and see how can you apply your south node in a north node type of way. Okay, because the way that I see it is like, if you actually mastered the south node and you completed it successfully, you wouldn't have reincarnated. That's the way that I see it, right? So it's like you're back again because there's something here that's unfinished business. So you want to look at the south node and see how can you take whatever you've mastered in the south node and apply it in a north node type of way. Now, you can also look at your 10th house. Let's say that's your public image as well. But it's like, it's the whole natal chart, really. You said, thank you so much for your explanation, and awesome you used that as an analogy because you have Venus, Moon, Chiron in the 4th house Cancer. I had a feeling that it wasn't random, but yeah, thank you for confirming. Let's see, what else are you guys saying in here? Let's see. Aries rising with Mars and Capricorn and a 9th house. You are mid-Saturn return and you feel like you're trying to find your life purpose right now. Yeah, so very similar to what I was saying to the other person. Like, You want to look at the whole natal chart. Saturn can also give you indication, because also Saturn might be the area you struggle in. Saturn is also the area that you're kind of mastering in this lifetime as well. You have Saturn, oh, you didn't say what house you have Saturn in, but that's the whole thing. You want to see the whole chart. It's really hard to say with just a few placements, because there's a lot of things going on in the natal chart, and then you also want to look at your numerological aspect of things. And if you guys aren't looking at any of that, well, in that case, just look at like your life overall. Like, where did you have the most amount of struggles in? Was it, you know, in the area of expression and speaking? Was it in the area of you wanting to be creative and not being seen? Was it in the area of, I don't know, wanting to help people? Like, what area is it in, right? So, or maybe you overcame something. Maybe you overcame some form of struggle in your life, and now you maybe want to help other people overcome that struggle as well. So it's different for everybody. You want to look at the whole chart. Pluto in the 12th house in Libra. Okay, so you're Gen X astrologically. So this is astrologically, Pluto in Libra. That's the overall generation. So you guys are clearing anything to do with relationships. I don't know why I wanted to say family matters. That's interesting that came through. So relationships, you guys are clearing anything to do with like how we view relationships. Maybe like within this generation, like divorce started becoming more normalized, maybe having different types of relationships. I find like Gen X, Pluto and Libra is very much about like hanging out and like, you know, like the in-person interactions. So like, you know, they always like do group things, I've noticed as well. Like they're very much about like, yeah, friendship, because it is Libra. It's also karma though. Libra is exalted in Saturn. Keep this in mind as well, okay? So there could be some things that you guys are clearing in terms of like justice or like law, or like, you know, it's always about like fair, right? So when you guys were growing up, maybe there was something that you guys felt like wasn't fair. So maybe you guys, let's say, come through and it's like you want to change something in the legal system, or you just speak about these types of things. So that's kind of like the overall idea. I have a whole video on Pluto in Libra on my YouTube channel. Well, we are here right now. So you guys can go under the playlist, and I have it under, I think it's under the Pluto playlist, okay? It's all in there, all of the Pluto signs. I was recently thinking I should do one for Pluto and Capricorn, because that is Gen Alpha. They're slowly starting to come online. And then Pluto going through the 12th house. So, you know, Pluto's that pendulum. So this is the area that you're transforming through. You go through something transformational in that house, and then you are basically transmuting it for the overall generation, because Pluto is generational, for yourself and maybe for the family line and like the ancestral line as well. So the 12th house is intense. So this could be a few things. Like, let's say within your family, maybe there's like a psychic gift that was traveling. Maybe you're the one that kind of brings it to the surface. Maybe when you were younger, maybe you were super intuitive, and maybe you had imaginary friends or something of this sort, and like that got shot off for you, and maybe you were scared to speak on it, because Pluto can also be fierce. It could be like all these unconscious things. So that's Pluto in the 12th house. So you go through this pendulum swing, and then eventually you neutralize in the middle. So also with like Pluto in the 12th house, it's like wherever you guys have Pluto, whatever house you have it in, usually for the generational planets, the sign affects the generation. You take on some of that energy because you are part of that generation, but the house is the area of life for you. It affects you more. So a few other things that can take place could be kind of like, you know, it could be the area, let's say, where your power gets taken away from you with Pluto. You go through some form of crisis, and then as you grow, you basically reclaim your power in that area, and then you kind of become neutralized. You guys can kind of look at it as like scorpionic energy in this way, right? Scorpio goes through all the phases. So like when you're younger, maybe you're like very like fearful of this area, which is like the 12th house, which is anything to do with like the metaphysical world. It could be anything to do maybe with your creativity as well. It could be anything to do with like, I don't know, maybe you're interested in film or theater or music, all these things, right? So because of this, like you could have a fear to it. And it's like this constant internal crisis, right? Because it's like you want to do it, maybe you dip your toes in it and then you don't. Or maybe you do it in secret, or maybe you do like a double life. Like that's that scorpionic energy, right? And then Scorpio eventually has to come out of hiding to come into that full-blown like Phoenix rising state after it's kind of resolved enough within itself is really what that is. Let's see. I do the Placidus tropical system. No, I don't do Vedic. Let's see, what else are you guys saying in here? You're welcome. I'm just going in order, so I'll get to everyone at the bottom. I'm just going back up. Thank you so much for the likes, you guys. You're awesome. Let's see. 5 placements in Scorpio in the 10th house, and you said that's exactly how your nervous system is, hypervigilant. It's a lot of mental activity. Absolutely. It's very, very like mental, okay? The scorpionic energy, because it's like the thing is, like, people who incarnate with like Scorpio energy, I mean, there's just so much to say. I have a full-blown playlist on Scorpio, but it's like when these people incarnate, basically what happens is like already you have the predisposition to like want to like be aware of everything, right? So that's kind of how this whole like betrayal element comes in, because it's like even though you already are aware, maybe you're intuitively aware, something still happens when you're younger that's kind of like a gotcha. Oh, you didn't see that coming. So when that moment happens, then you become like, okay, maybe it's gonna happen in this moment, maybe it's gonna happen in that moment, maybe it's gonna happen here, maybe it's gonna happen there, right? So that's why Scorpio a lot of the time is connected to paranoia, fear of betrayal. But it's interesting because it's like Scorpio can also be connected to power and control. And it's like the whole thing here is like Scorpio seeks power so they can control their environment, so they don't end up, thank you for the super chats, you guys, so they don't end up in that moment again. That's kind of like the whole thing. Like it's constantly, the energy is trying to constantly protect itself from that one thing, whatever it was, right? So with that being said, it takes a lot of energy. It takes a lot of emotional energy. And it's like the Scorpio energy, especially when it's like underdeveloped, unhealed, unaware, whatever term you want to use, it really tries to hold on, you know? It's really trying to hold on, but the whole point of the energy is to learn to let go. And it's really, really hard. So you guys are gonna know, like wherever, everyone has Scorpio somewhere in their natal chart. So you guys will know, or Pluto even, okay, in your natal chart. It's going to tell you guys, right? Like what is that area where maybe you kind of have these tendencies in, maybe where you're a little bit more hyper aware or whatever it is, okay? So that's the whole thing there. And it's interesting because it's like Scorpio, if you have a stellium, you're always merging. So you can't turn that off. And it's like through this whole experience of trying to merge to people, it's like, you know, Scorpio is connected to like possession and being possessive, because it's like they merge so much to people that they see these people now as themselves, you know? So it's like if that person leaves, it's like I'm leaving. Do you know what I mean? It's like a part of myself is leaving. So it's like that's another thing that the Scorpio energy has to transmute, because like it's ironic, because when it's again underdeveloped, unhealed, or whatever term you guys want to use, it's like through this whole process of them trying to hold on to the person or people or friends or whoever it is for dear life, you're actually inadvertently pushing them away is really what it is. So it's like, it's this whole interesting thing to see. And it's like, then you push the person away and then you kind of go through this whole energetic, like, it's like very alchemical, like catharsis, right? Of like change, you know? And it's like, that's still when you're kind of like going through the transmutation process, I guess. And ultimately what I think energetically Scorpio is trying to achieve is their connection to God, the creator, right? So when you're younger or underdeveloped or whatever, right? Unhealed, the lower version of Scorpio, you're looking for that through other people. And then you see like a glimpse of it, right? But it's like, again, you know, people are people, you know what I mean? Like everyone needs to be able to do their own thing. And it's interesting because it's like, at the same time, Scorpio people want to be left alone. So it's such like a paradoxical type of energy, is really, really what that is. So the only way I can explain it is like, there's a myth and, or story or legend or whatever it is, and it's called like the hand and the dove. And in this like story, basically like the whole concept is like, and now I'm paraphrasing, so this isn't word for word, but it's like there's a person and the person sees this dove and they think the dove is like so beautiful. And like, they're like, oh my gosh, I love the dove. I want to like hold on to the dove. But the whole story here is like the dove can't be the dove if you're trying to hold on to it, because the dove needs to go off and fly and do its like dove-like activities, right? So the whole story here is like the person tries to hold on to the dove, but if you're holding on to the dove, then the dove can't be the dove, right? And in a way, it's like energetically suffocating. So that's why Scorpio people are sometimes intense to other people and these types of things. But like what everyone has to understand in general, overall, is like we're always trying to learn more about ourselves through other people. That's really what it is. Like it's all about ourselves. Like everything that we do, even the people who are out here like thinking they're like so healed and like all at this level, like they're still going through some form of process of learning the self is really what that is. Let's see, what else are you guys saying in here? Thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm just going back up. Thank you. Yes, yes, yes. I'm highly intuitive. Let's see, what else are you guys saying in here? Welcome, welcome, welcome to all the people joining. Leo Vertex in the 8th house. Okay, I have a playlist on Vertex as well. So Vertex, they say these are fated events and they say these events change the course of our lives forever. Well, here's the thing. When I tap into Vertex, to me, it feels very foreign. Even when I do my readings, I always leave it for the end. I always say to people, take it with a grain of salt, because it's like, it's a fated event, and this event can be anything. Really, when you look at all the combinations, it can manifest so many ways, right? So, you know, in terms of Vertex and like, what is the fated event, you shouldn't kind of sit in your room and be like, oh my gosh, what is the event? Is it going to happen? Like, don't go into fear energy, right? But the overall idea with Vertex also is like, it's newer. And then when I tap into it, it just feels like a lot of people haven't attached their energy to it. So it's kind of just like there, if that makes sense. So, okay, the house in here is going to tell you the person or the group of people you experienced this fated event through. And then the sign is going to be like the vibe or the idea of what that event might be. So the A house can be an astrologer. It can be a psychologist. It can be like a financial type of person, an accountant. It could be through a spouse. It could be through like an occult practitioner. That's the A house. Any type of A house vibe, right? It could be through a mortician, let's say. And then you have Leo in here. Leo is like a creative type of event or something to do with your inner child, maybe even dating. So let's say you want to start your own business, for example, and let's say you go to the bank, because the A house can be other people's money. You go to the bank and then the financial advisor helps you get a loan. And now this loan helps you start your business where you can be creative and you can express yourself creatively. And maybe this is somehow encompassed into your overall life purpose. There you go. There's your fated event. So I see it as like an event that takes place and it puts you on your path. That's kind of how I see Vertex. Let's see what else you guys saying in here. How to work with Leo Sun in the 12th house and Gemini Venus in the 10th house. Can you, if you're still in the room, let me know if you have Leo occupying your overall 12th house. Here's the thing with 12th house Sun. 12th house Sun is, I can't say temporary because it still takes a period of time, but usually you clear out of that 12th house Sun around maybe already by the Saturn return. It depends what degrees you have the 12th house Sun, but usually it's later degrees, the 12th house Sun, because it's usually conjuncting your ascendant. So usually in the earlier part of your life, you already kind of transmute that. But with that being said, when you're younger, you could be kind of blurred in terms of like what you want to do. You don't know who you are. You don't know who, like what your identity is. The father could have been absent with a 12th house Sun. But at the same time, you kind of feel like you're here for something bigger, you know? And it's karmic in the sense where it's like, in a way, you are here to quote unquote serve, because that 12th house is the house of service, okay? That access 12th house, 6th house is the house, they're the houses of service, okay? So 6th house is more so like, you know, interacting maybe in the everyday, day to day. The 12th house ends up being quote unquote energetically like sacrificial in a way. Like that's how the house feels, okay? Now, you don't have to go into martyr energy. Sometimes people do go into like martyr complex or whatever it is when they have a bunch of 12th house energy. I have a theory that a lot of people who get sucked into cults are maybe 12th house people as well, because it's like these people are seeking an identity, and a lot of the time it's blurred because you don't have that strong, let's say, masculine role when you were younger. Maybe the father was working all the time. Maybe he was mentally, emotionally, or physically absent with a 12th house Sun. Now, with that being said, these people need structure, okay? So for you to like best direct your energy, you're gonna have to work on your masculine energy within, because eventually you go out of the 12th house Sun and then you go into a first house Sun when you go through that progression. So when you have it in the first house, now it gives you the undertone of Leo rising. It's like, now I'm ready to shine. But the earlier part of your life can be very blurred. You don't know which way to go. A lot of the time, 12th house Sun people get a lot of readings done. That can also be very much 12th house Sun as well, because they're trying to figure out who they are. Because again, there isn't this strong like direction for them. So unconsciously, like when you feel like you need someone leading you all the time, you could attract people like this into your life, but you could also attract opportunists. This is what I mean by like, I feel like a lot of 12th house people, like I feel like a lot of people who are like in cults or like get sucked into cults are 12th house people. I don't know, we'd have to do a study, but I feel like they are. For this reason, because it's like there's this person, maybe it's an opportunist, and they see maybe this wound that you're looking to be led or whatever it is. Now, you know, the expression, let's say when you kind of get over that phase of like, you know, looking for someone to guide you or a guide, these people can become very spiritual or religious, because then they have that connection to the divine is really what that is. So in turn, because you have this connection to something higher, you also are healing, okay? So that's where the healing energy comes from for 12th house people. So that's what that is. So Leo Sun, overall here to shine, and then Gemini Venus, you have Gemini Venus in the 10th house. That could be public life in one way, shape, or form, making money through the public, working with the public, something to do with like the written or the spoken word. You said, let's see, what else? I thought it was the same person commenting at the bottom, but it was somebody else, so I'm just going back up. Oh my gosh, there's another 12th house sun, Libra sun in the 12th house. That's probably going to resonate with you as well, except you're a Libra sun. So maybe a little bit more charismatic with the Libra energy in there, intellectual, fun. Let's see what else are you guys saying in here. Okay, Tina says your partner and you both have Taurus in out 12th house, but yours is, okay, in your 12th house, but yours is in Mercury and his on Lilith. What does that mean for you? Okay, so you have Mercury in the 12th house. These people, so sometimes you'll see 12th house sun conjunct Mercury. These people, or even 12th house Mercury, can be singers, they can be poets, they can channel, okay? They can tap into the other dimensions because you're escaping through the crown when you got that Mercury in the 12th house. So you're gonna have to figure out how to ground this. And here's the thing too, like I have a few videos on like psychic gifts and abilities on my YouTube channel. It's all under the metaphysical playlist. And then I talked about it a little bit in the third eye chakra video as well. That one's under the exploring the chakras playlist. So, okay, here's the thing, like when you have psychic gifts and abilities, it depends on your vibrational standpoint. So if you're in your lower chakras, you're going to go into paranoia, you're going to go into fears, hypervigilance, kind of like we talked about earlier, okay? Kind of, you know, really like going into like the negative aspect of the crown, you know, maybe thinking people are out to get you, although that's more scorpionic. But it could be the 12th house because the 12th house is the collective unconscious as well. It could, okay? So you want to clear this, purge this, transmute this, bring it into your awareness, like whatever term you want to use, and then go into the higher vibrations. So when you go into the higher chakras from the heart space onwards, then you're connecting into like the more divine planes, and you really have to get in tune with the feeling and the emotion to know which way are you connecting into, right? Let's say you have a fear come up, you know, like let's say, I don't know, something random. Right? You have some sort of fear come up, you know, you can observe it. You can be like, okay, this is coming up, but I'm not going to feed into it. I'm just going to let it just be there, kind of like compartmentalize, you know? So that's kind of how you transmute is really what that is. It's like not feeding into this energy and just like observing it, if that makes sense, like seeing that it's there. Now, Lilith in the 12th house, this energy is like some shadow traits, like the sign in here is going to tell us a little bit more about maybe what shadow traits this person has, because you guys can look at Lilith as like Pluto's little cousin, okay? It's our shadow traits. It's also part of our unconscious. It's part of like our shadow dark side, and everyone has one, right? We want to integrate and merge the worlds together. And it's like at every point and every single situation that takes place, we're always faced with that decision. Am I going to react in light or dark, or in my divine version or in my unhealed version? We always have that choice, right? And like the more we start to go into the divine, or like act on more so divine, or like pause and not go into like the whole fight, flight, fawn, and freeze, right? I'm not a psychologist, my disclaimer as usual, but like the more we don't go into that, right, we kind of transmute that energy, and then it becomes a habit, right? Because I feel like a lot of like, even when we have triggers, like if you act out of a trigger, it's more so like a habit. I hope that makes sense. It's familiar and you're used to it, right? So when we're trying to rewire ourselves, at least the way that I've done it for myself, is like you don't act in that way, right? You want to see what is a divine version, and then kind of just like take a pause, right? Even in a moment, let's say you're even having an argument with someone, you can just be like, I need 5 minutes, okay? Or we can talk about this tomorrow, or just give me some time to just like assess everything, right? So it's this. So when you have Lilith in the 12th house, it could be a lot of unconscious fears, maybe again, this like paranoia that I mentioned, going into like the shadow of the crown, escapism. It could be substances, because the thing is the 12th house is vast, right? It's all of this, and it's also the collective unconscious. So like the 12th house person is very prone to merging to not only the collective unconscious, but the people around them, your partners, anybody, okay? Especially if you're energetically open. So because of this, these people, especially when you're unaware, first of all, you don't know who you are. If you don't know this, or like what your like wants, needs, and desires are, and who you are and what your values are, like if you don't know this, right, which 12th house people struggle with, especially in the earlier part of their life, especially 12th house sun, like I was mentioning earlier, well, if you don't know this, it's easy for you to get sucked into these situations and then think that certain things are your energy when they're not your own. And then the whole reason this house escapes is because they just get overwhelmed, right? Like they get overwhelmed with all the energy, the emotions, and keep in mind, emotions are energy in motion. Let's see. Oh yeah, I'm glad that resonated. Twelfth house people, yeah, okay. So when I talk about like, let's say a 12th house person or an 8th house person, I'm talking like if you have an 8th house placement, 12th house placement, if you have a 12th house stellium, 8th house stellium, like that's what I mean. Everyone, yes, absolutely. Everyone has an 8th house, everyone has a 12th house, 5th house, everyone has these houses. But when I refer to people and I say 12th house person, 8th house person. I'm talking about people who have maybe 1, 2, 3, like as long as you have a placement in your natal chart. For like 8th house and 12th house, just because the energy is super strong, a lot of the time, even if someone has one placement, I tend to refer to them as 8th house people. This isn't a rule of thumb, it's just the way I've compartmentalized the energy, because when I feel into people, I can always feel the water coming out of them, even if it's one placement, you know what I mean? So I always consider them 8th house people, 12th house people, even if there's one placement. But yeah, one placement, two placement, let's say you have your sun or your Jupiter or your Venus or your Pluto. That's what I mean when I say 12th house person, 8th house person, this type of thing. Let's see what else you guys saying in here. I'm glad that resonated. I use Placidus Tropical. I prefer Placidus Tropical. There's a few of you guys asking that question. Let's see. Okay, Eva, you said, yay, I'm glad that you had a live. You said, can I tell you about Libra risings, what to expect, Pluto transitioning your 5th house? Yeah. So Pluto going through your 5th house, this is a house of creativity, expression. It's going to be the inner child, children overall. It's going to also be your overall, like you being seen, your expression, right? So it's interesting actually for Libra rising, because depends where you're at in your journey, because Libra rising already merges to other people. And also the 5th house is love, dating, and relationships. So it's interesting when you have Pluto going through here, because it's like, in a way, during this period of time, you could be learning a lot about yourself through your relationships. Let's say you're dating. You could be learning a lot about maybe your inner child. Maybe you realize that like you were suppressed for a period of time in terms of like your inner child, and like you struggle to express your creativity. It could be this. Again, you know, with Pluto, right, it's some form of crisis or maybe trauma, or maybe something's coming to the surface for you during this time. So it's the 5th house. And it's interesting because it's like everything that I was saying earlier about Pluto like vibes and Scorpio vibes, like wanting to hold on to people. Well, during this time, maybe you're going to have, let's say, like something to do with your attachment style coming to the surface. Maybe you're more like, let's say, holding on to people during this period of time, right? Or like wanting to possess people during this period of time, because it's like the 5th house is the fun house, right? So it's like the 5th house sees love, dating, and relationships as fun, maybe casual, but Pluto going through here can't be fun and casual. It can't, right? Because Pluto is serious. Pluto wants to get to the bottom of things. So like when someone sparks like Pluto's or Scorpio's interest, it's like they're really researching everything about this person. Like that's why it has the obsessive tendencies, because like it's kind of like they're trying to get to the bottom of something. But keep in mind, through you learning about these people, you're actually learning about yourself, and you're going through this like transformational process to learn more about yourself and who you are as a person. So that's kind of like the overall idea. You said Gemini, Sun, and Rising. You said you have 12th house in Mercury. Let's see what else you guys saying in here. Welcome, welcome, welcome to all the people joining. Thanks for the likes, you guys. Let's see. You said also, can I let you know about Saturn in the 6th house transit for Libra risings? It's been so hard to get a good job. Please, what can you do? Okay, so you're going through Saturn in the 6th house. I'm trying to think what you could do. I don't know. I really don't know, because Saturn is going to make you work for things. It's going to kind of put you through a lot of trials and tribulations. Sometimes, honestly, with Saturn transits, you just have to wait it out, is really, really what that is. That's really, really what that is, because it's putting like that grip on you for those 3 years. Let's see what else are you guys saying in here. Pluto affect the 12th house, Libra, Scorpio rising. Let's see, you said you're curious. What do I think if someone has a stellium? Saturn, Jupiter, and Pluto. Saturn, Jupiter, and Pluto falling into your 10th house. Saturn conjunct Pluto is a little bit intense, because these tend to be like power struggles with authority and authoritative figures. So this person might already kind of have this vibe about them. They might be a little bit more in their ego. It's falling into your 7th house. There could be codependencies taking place in this relationship as well. But them as a person, like them having Saturn conjunct Pluto, like, I don't know, it's just power struggles with authority. Like they might just have an ego. Do you know what I mean? Like maybe this person has like certain things that they have to work through. And then through the relationship with you, maybe they're learning more about themselves, because it is in your 7th house. 29 degrees Aquarius rising. Is Pluto entering your 1st house or your 12th house when you look at your physical chart? Okay. So if you guys want to see what sign you have in which house, I mean, you can look at a few different websites. I like the Cafe Astrology website for that in particular, because it's going to give you a little chart I think it's Cafe Astrology. I don't know. I always type in Astro Cafe and that website comes up. So it'll give you a little chart. So it'll tell you all your placements. And then if you scroll down a little more, it'll give you a chart. And then it'll tell you exactly what sign is occupying what house. And then you'll know. Because sometimes if you're looking at Placidus tropical, sometimes let's say you have your sun in Aquarius in the 12th house, but maybe your Aquarius is actually in the 11th house. Do you know what I mean? So you have to look at the actual chart to see. Let's see. Libra ascendant 27 degrees. Are they more intuitive? Well, that's a good question. I'd have to look at your natal chart. I'm curious to know, maybe you have Capricorn, Neptune squaring your Libra ascendant. Let me know. Mars, did I say Capricorn, Neptune? Yeah, Capricorn, Neptune squaring your ascendant. Let me know if you're still in the room. Brud says Mars conjunct Pluto in the 7th house. Oh, that is all about like the silent way to power, like secretly behind the scenes, trying to get to my goals. Like people can't read you when it comes to your goals and ambitions. It could be all like hee hee ha ha, but like all of a sudden you're like at the top position. That's Mars conjunct Pluto. It gives you that undertone energy, like that Plutonian energy, like really studying people because you're using the feminine energy, right? Which is the Pluto, like conjuncting the Mars and like going after my goals type of way. So it's really good for getting goals. 7th house though, what I will say for 7th house, maybe 7th house, you could struggle with indecision, but that energy, like Pluto and Mars, like having that in the 7th house, you could be good at negotiations, maybe even business. Let's see, Pluto and Scorpio in the 1st house. What do I recommend? Depends. What is your question pertaining to? Pluto and Scorpio is the overall generation. So that's millennials. So that's the karma that you're clearing with them. They have a lot to clear, the millennial generation. Like there's a lot of karma in terms of the family line, attachment styles, attachment issues, in terms of like fear in relationships, in terms of betrayal in the relationships. What are relationships? Because it's coming out of Libra into Pluto, or sorry, Libra into Scorpio. It could be the mother wound with this generation. What else? So many things. But it's like, you know, whatever intensity has taken place, this generation also has like the energy potential to transmute it, right? So when we're transmuting things, you want to see how can you transmute that thing. For some people, it's going to be through art. For some people, it's going to be through music. For some people, it's going to be through writing. For other people, it's going to be through talking, speaking. So it depends. In your 1st house, Pluto in the 1st house gives you the undertone of having a Scorpio rising. So you could be intimidating. You could kind of have like an intense vibe about you, magnetic, very mysterious, attractive. Okay, Carla says, I'll get back to the questions up there in just a second. Carla says, hey, Barbara, you have a question about the 8th house. You have Moon, Mars, Jupiter, North Node in the 8th house. Your life has, and it's in Leo. You said your life has been extremely difficult with a lot of violence, control, and sabotage. Will life get better? I'm going to say eventually, yes, because you do progress out of that energy. You do progress out of that energy eventually, the 8th house. But the 8th house is intense, especially Moon and Mars. It is intense. Absolutely the 8th house. Honestly, here's the thing, what I've learned with astrology, and I was just thinking about this earlier today. Sometimes, because the energies in our chart, we have to become very good at detecting the energy. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, maybe the earlier part of your life was that, okay, now you're aware. So like seeing that out in other people, do you know what I mean? Because it's like these people, like for everybody in their chart, like let's say you have a Venus placement in something or whatever it is, it's going to seem like you're constantly attracting the same characters, but it's just like, it's part of the energetic imprint and you can choose not to interact with those people. Now it's interesting, and like the New Age, in the New Age, they say that you're manifesting these people towards you, or you have to heal something within you. I don't necessarily believe that. I just see it as that's your energetic imprint, and you can either interact with it, which usually when you're younger, you're unconscious, so you're unaware, right? Or you can just be like, I'm not engaging with this energy at all, is really, really what that is in terms of our natal charts overall. Let's see what else you guys saying here. You're welcome. Your big 3 is all cardinal, or something like that. No, but thank you. I have, thank you. I've got Libra Sun, Scorpio Moon, and I've got a Libra rising. And my moon is in the 1st house, so I can't hide anything. But that gives the undertone of having a Cancer rising, so maybe that's where you pick up on that energy. My chart is all fixed and cardinal, so it's fixed and cardinal. It's both. Is Capricorn in the 4th house with Jupiter good or bad? I don't see anything as good or bad. It's kind of like, this is the energetic imprint, and we have to learn how to work with the energy, is really, really what that is. So Capricorn in the 4th house, maybe the upbringing was intense, or maybe it was very traditional, or maybe it was like there was a focus on money. Maybe you were raised by older parents, or maybe the parents were cold, or maybe the mother was cold when you have Capricorn in the 4th house. So these are some things that can take place. So as a young child, you had to take on some form of responsibility when you have Capricorn in your 4th house, okay? or if you have Saturn in the 4th house. So maybe you had to take care of your siblings while the parents were working. Whether the money's there or not there, you might feel like it's not there. Maybe there's commentary, this cost this much, this was this expensive, where it goes into your subconscious, and now you might constantly be in this like hypervigilance about money, for example. So that's why a lot of the time Capricorn people are like hustlers, right? Because they come from some form of background where there's this like, it doesn't mean that there's scarcity, like there could have been money, but maybe money was weaponized. Or I don't know, maybe there were like wealthy parents who went through some form of divorce where they kind of use money against each other. Like whatever the circumstance is, like the Capricorn person like has this burning desire within to quote unquote make it. Like you'll hear these people all the time, right? So that's why they become hustlers and they're trying to like climb to the top, because really what they're doing and part of the Capricorn karma is to elevate the financial status of the family, the social status of the family, and kind of clear that karma within the family line. So it's like maybe the parents kind of cleared it a little bit, maybe they were in a little bit higher social status, doesn't matter, like, you know, maybe they already are higher, right? But you're here to elevate even further, okay? So that's kind of like what the Capricorn person is doing. So you'll see with Capricorn people, they start hustling at a young age, because it's like they know from a higher self level that this plane is ruled by Saturn. When I say plane, like the earth plane, the dimension that we're in, it's ruled by Saturn. So because it's ruled by Saturn, things take time. And Capricorn is very aware of this, probably unconsciously when they're younger. When we're younger, we're just unaware of everything, right? So unconsciously, they're unaware of, like unconsciously, they're aware of this, right? Hold on, unconsciously, yeah, unconsciously, they're aware of this, right? Maybe consciously, they're unaware of it, but unconsciously, they're, I don't know why I keep confusing myself, but you guys get what I'm trying to say, okay? So because of this, like they might surround themselves by rich people, or like work in like luxurious types of things, or like work with rich people, get like mentors and these types of things, okay? It's really, really what that is with the Capricorn energy. Let's see, what else are you guys saying in here? 4 planets in Scorpio: Sun, Jupiter, Pluto, Mercury, all in the 4th house. Also, is Scorpio occupying your overall 4th house? And are you a Scorpio moon? Well, you didn't mention that you're a Scorpio moon. Scorpio is intense. Scorpio is seeking completion, okay? That's the whole thing with Scorpionic energy. I'll get to everyone at the top in just a second. So Scorpio as an energy, you know, is really seeking completion of the self, but they're also seeking a connection to a higher purpose, or not necessarily a higher purpose. It could be this, but I feel like unconsciously they're seeking that connection to the creator, okay? That connection to something above and beyond is really, really what that is. That's why a lot of the time you'll notice that, or people talk about Scorpio being like sexually obsessed or like super sexual. Not all of them. Like if a Scorpio is hypersexual, maybe they're wounded, but sex is important to them. And the reason for this is that through this process, they're getting that connection to God, okay? Is really, really what that is. That's what kind of what's happening energetically behind the scenes. So Scorpio goes through a lot of intensity in the earlier part of their life. Everybody who has Scorpio, whether you have 1, 2, 3, especially if it's in the personal planets, you'll really, really feel it, okay? So you go through a lot of intensity, and it's like through this intensity and this catharsis, you're kind of going through this like whole transmutation process of the self, trying to really get to that phoenix rising state. But it's like sometimes people get stuck in like the lower versions of Scorpio, the shadow versions of Scorpio, you know, kind of like this, like almost like, I don't want to say like Scorpio isn't like a defeated type of energy, but it's like when they're in their lower versions, like, I don't know, it's almost like if they're stuck in the lower versions, it's almost like they feel defeated in a way because they haven't achieved this like ultimate thing that they're seeking for. But ultimately what a Scorpionic person is seeking for is mind, body, spirit connection, is really, really what that is. No, my Mercury is not in Virgo. It is in my, in the Vedic astrology, it's in Virgo. In Placidus, it's in Libra. So that's the thing. I just have so much to say about Scorpio energy. You guys can check out my Scorpio 8 house playlist, but that's kind of what's happening. So it's like the Scorpionic person almost feels like unconsciously, okay? It's all happening unconsciously, that like for them to achieve this whole level of like change or transformation or like union, I guess, with the divine, they go through this like destruction of the self, because they go into like the depths of the darkness to change and to transform, right? Because it's like sometimes for some people that's the way to the light, you know? So that's why Scorpionic people are going to be attracted to dark things or like the lower aspects of society. Dark people, like you might be attracted to them or they might be attracted to you. And you know what's interesting that I've been thinking about vis-a-vis like Scorpio energy? Okay, so I hope you guys are ready for this. So what I was thinking about was like, okay, you know, when we look at attraction, okay, like sexual attraction, I was thinking like, okay, like, you know, a lot of the time, like when when something seems dangerous, right, you get more attracted to that thing. And then I was thinking, and I was like, why is it this? Like unconsciously, this is what's happening, right? So it's like if everything's safe and predictable, maybe this is just for Scorpio people. I don't know if this is for all people. And again, I'm not a psychologist or anything like that. This is just what I was thinking about the other day. So for like Scorpionic people, maybe, right? Or maybe it's everyone, I don't know. But for these people, like they tend to be attracted to like danger, right? And I was like, why are they attracted to danger? And then I was thinking, and I was like, it's because when there's danger, it's connected to the potential for death. Okay. And that's why Scorpio also deals with death. And then I was thinking, and I was like, okay, so why is that? And then I was like, okay, because it's connected to death, going through the death process brings them closer to God. Okay. So sometimes you'll notice, like when you see people talking about like this person attracted to a bad boy or bad girl or like whatever it is, it's because that energy is bringing you to death, but like the death energy is bringing you closer to God. I hope that makes sense. I don't know. I was thinking about that the other day. Let's see. What else are you guys saying in here? You said you're quite a Scorpio. You're far from being, you said you're far from being the sexual bee that many describe. Scorpios use humor to cover up the nervousness. There are plenty of questions about nature and life and depth. Absolutely. You said, oh, wow, thank you for that explanation. You needed that, going into the darkness to get into light. Yeah, I'm glad that resonated. Okay, let me go into the higher, or not higher, but like the earlier questions. What else were you guys saying in here? Let's see, let's see, let's see. North Node Pisces in the 6th. That means your South Node would have been in, it would have been in Virgo and in the 12th house. Maybe you had a healer lifetime. Maybe you were super metaphysical. You guys always want to figure out and see how can you apply the South Node in a North Node type of way, because you didn't get to complete that South Node fully, right? Because if you completed it, you wouldn't have come back. So in a past life, maybe it was like, maybe you like master like the metaphysical aspect of life, and you're coming through in this lifetime maybe to apply it in a more grounded way. Let's say with the 6th house, it could be something like this. Let's see what else you guys saying in here. You're welcome. Oh, you said my tapping is giving ASMR. Those are my nails. Let's see what else you guys saying in here. You said, oh, you have Chiron and a Virgo ascendant, no planets in your 6th. Is this work making your physical insecurities from, is your work making your physical insecurities from Chiron worse? Can you reword your question? You said you got Neptune in the 1st house in Scorpio. Any advice for people not to project their illusions on you? LOL. I mean, if people are projecting their illusions, like that's their problem. It's not yours. You know what I mean? Like it is what it is. You know, I've been thinking about that lately too. It's like sometimes it's like if someone's doing something and like you're not doing anything to make them think that, like that's on them. That's not you. Let's see. What else are you guys saying in here? What is Uranus in the 12th house in Sagittarius mean? You have South Node in Libra in the 9th house, and you always feel like they are related. You have Saturn and Sagittarius in the 11th house, something to do with karma. Uranus in the 12th house in Sagittarius, so Sag is the generation, okay? So Uranus is where we rebel through. It's going to be, you know, the area we see uniquely. So Sag is like the subset of your generation. So this generation, like the subset of you guys, basically sees the area of freedom, you know, very uniquely, or they could be very unconventional when it comes to freedom, or like, I'm curious to know if you have Neptune in here, if you're part of that subset of the generation with like the Neptune-Uranus conjunction. But yeah, so that's Uranus and Sag. Maybe you guys have like very unique ideas when it comes to philosophies, religions, travel, like all these things, okay? Uranus in the 12th house, you're carrying over, okay, ideas, maybe innovations, tech, all these types of things. You're carrying them over from a past life into this lifetime. So it's going to be a matter of you tapping into that, okay, to access it. So for you to tap into it, you have to get into a meditative state. And for you to get into a meditative state, you have to see what meditation is for you, because meditative states are different for different people. Maybe it's listening to a meditation song, or maybe it's cleaning when you're doing, anytime you're doing something repetitive, it gets you to zone out, right? That's kind of how you go into meditation. Maybe you're going on a walk. Maybe you're listening to a song overall in your walking. Maybe you're at the gym. Maybe you are cooking something. Maybe you're dancing, whatever it is, okay? Whatever kind of gets you out of like the logical mind into the meditative mind. If you spend enough time up there, you'll tap into this information, is really, really what that is. You said you're Pisces Mercury, and when you come across Scorpio Mercury people that trying to dissect and talking about dark, I'm not gonna say that word all the time, is cool and all that, but yeah, Scorpio Mercury is They can be intense, absolutely. I can always feel a Scorpio person. Like they're always brooding. Like they're always like, first of all, they're always within themselves, but they're always like brooding. Like, I don't know, it is what it is. I'm a Scorpio stellium, so I speak on that energy, but sometimes like the scorpionic energy can get stuck in there. You know what I mean? Where it's like, it's just brooding all the time and like in that vibe, it becomes a comfort after a while. You know what I mean? Let's see. Mars in the A house and Scorpio moon chart placements. Oh my gosh, I have a whole video on Scorpio moon. There's so much to say about Scorpio moon. Super psychic, super intuitive, super magnetic. What else? Mediumship abilities when you have a Scorpio moon is really what that is. Mars in the A house, this energy can be kind of silent when it goes in terms of like getting its goals. Silent but violent, I will say that much. Especially if it's unhealed, it can get violent literally. So that's something with Scorpio that a lot of people sometimes don't notice. Depends on the chart, but like Scorpio used to be ruled by Mars. So again, when they're underdeveloped or they're unhealed or whatever, lower versions, they can be aggressive. And sometimes they can be energetically aggressive. So it's like, if you're a little bit more intuitive and you're dealing with a Scorpio person, if the other Scorpio person is in their obsession phase, you will feel that energy on the astral plane, okay? Where they're like energetically penetrating. And this is how sometimes Scorpio magnetizes things towards them, because it can be psychically as well. So you guys always want to take that and put it into, let's say, a goal or an ambition that you guys have, because it's like, sometimes if you're doing that and it's like going toward a person, it could energetically affect that person's free will. Sometimes it's unconscious. Like, I don't think people do these things on purpose. It's just the nature of the energy can be very, very intense and penetrative. Let's see. Alon says, my opinion, what placements and houses should one pay attention for? Okay, for drug addiction, 12th house, anywhere, okay? Also, moon conjunct Neptune for drug addiction. You can also look at A house. You can also look at Scorpio energy in a natal chart, Pisces energy in a natal chart. That's pretty much it. Any Neptunian aspects also, or if you have like a strong Neptune in your natal chart, that, yeah, definitely watch out for any sort of escapism. And then you want to get to the root of the drug addiction too, right? Like, where is it stemming from energetically? Again, I'm not a psychologist, but if you think about it, like, where do any addictions stem from? It could be from trauma. It could be from fragmentation. It could sometimes be from boredom, and then it turns into a comfort thing. It could be that too. Like, it turns into a ritual and then it turns into a comfort thing because like you're just doing it all the time. It could be this. So it depends. It really, really depends. Let's see what else you guys saying in here. Let's see. Cancer and passive aggressiveness. Yeah. So it's interesting. Cancer can be passive aggressive, but Libra can be passive aggressive too if they're, again, underdeveloped. So Cancer and passive aggressiveness, I mean, I feel like Cancer needs to learn their boundaries first and foremost. Like, that's the biggest thing they need to learn. A lot of the time, Cancer energy, when it's underdeveloped or unhealed, it goes into the mother wound. So what it does is like, it kind of nurtures everyone around them, but it's like they are the ones that actually want to be nurtured or are in need of nurturing. So there's this. Also, it's like, it depends where you have your Cancer, because it's like, again, because of this wound, or they like want like, the people around, or like they want to continue having the family feel or like the family vibe. Like, that's where the passive aggressiveness comes from. Like, when you're passive aggressive, you're not direct, right? But like the energy has to come through somewhere. So it's like, you could kind of like say snide comments, or like, I don't know, just say certain things to like get the outcome that you're seeking. But all you can really do is just be direct, is really what that is. Let's see. Hello, bye, Riley. Thank you for being here. Thank you. Moon conjunct Neptune for drug addiction. Let's see. What else are you guys saying in here? Venus and Scorpio, compatibility with a Venus and Aquarius. I don't know what to say. It depends on the rest of the chart, because Scorpio might be a little bit too obsessive. Depends also what phase of life you're in, because Scorpio might be a little bit too obsessive for the Venus and Aquarius. If you have Uranus aspecting your Venus, then that could work, okay? Because you might need that, like detachment vibe, and like, because Venus and Aquarius is like, also maybe if you have maybe like your 4th house in Aquarius, or if you have your IC in Aquarius, or if you have an Aquarius moon and you're the Venus and Scorpio person, maybe then this could work. But if you're like not like this, I don't know, because the Venus and Aquarius person like needs space, they need freedom. If you guys have good communication, I think any relationship could work. I think it all comes back down to communication. But otherwise, like Scorpio, like if they're underdeveloped, they want to hold on, right? And Aquarius wants to go off and be their own person. So there could be this, okay? Just something to keep in mind. Oh, you're welcome. You have Moon conjunct Neptune and Neptune conjunct your ascendant, and your escape routine was binge eating. Yeah, it's always something. It's always something in terms of like the addictive tendencies. Because when we look at addiction, like addiction is rooted in like a compulsion, right? So you could be addicted to anything. You could be addicted to shopping. You could be addicted to spending too much money. You could be addicted to overthinking. You could be addicted to just going into your crown. Thanks so much for the likes, you guys. Cancer stellium in the 9th house has progressed to a Leo sun, Mercury and Moon in the 10th, and Jupiter and Lilith in Leo. How do you work with that? Maybe being an artist, or like translating that energy, like the Cancerian feeling energy, putting it into art and putting it out there, because now you're expressing. You guys have to look at Leo energy as expression. That's what Leo is all about. They're here to express, right? So when you go out of Cancer into Leo, when you were in Cancer, you were in the feeling, right? You were in the emotions. And to be a good artist, you need to have that, right? So for example, like Lana Del Rey has this progression. She progressed out of Cancer into Leo, because Leo is kind of like, okay, now I'm ready to maybe talk about my emotions and my feelings, maybe poetry. Like it depends on the rest of the chart, but it could go in this direction. Let's see. He says Scorpio and Libra in your 12th house with Uranus and Moon conjunct. You found a futuristic way of protecting your energy from people, just projecting. Exactly. Yeah, we gotta be safe out in these streets in terms of energy. Let's see. Gemini Sun, 12th house. Gemini Mercury, 12th house. Gemini Ascendant, you're an artist. Absolutely. That makes sense with all the 12th house in there. How do you more easily channel the crown energy into being creative? What blocks that? Being in the crown too much. Okay. So, okay. With 12th house people, like, they really need to focus on grounding, okay? So the whole thing with the 12th house is they go into isolation because maybe they've absorbed a lot of energies. Maybe they have, thank you, you guys. Thank you for all the super chats and everything. Okay, maybe they've absorbed a lot of energies. They've been maybe like super, I don't know, like tired from just like being with the world, and they go into isolation, but you're not meant to be in isolation. You're meant to be out there helping and healing the people, right? It doesn't have to be directly, like you don't actually have to, like, let's say be in a soup kitchen. It could manifest into that way, but it could be through music, or it could be through painting or dancing or whatever it is, right? So to be more creative, you have to figure out a way to ground the energy down, because the 12th house spends a lot of time in the crown. So by you being in the crown, you could be picking up on everything, right? Like everything that's up there, and you want to streamline the energy. Do you know what I mean? So what I mean by this is, like, when you're picking up on everything, it could be like the collective unconscious, or your mind goes into this direction or it goes into that direction. So it's like, let's say, you know, the overall purpose or like intention that you have is to, I don't know, like help people with your music, right? If that's like the strong purpose that you have, then everything that you're receiving is going to go in that direction. I hope that makes sense, right? So that's the struggle with 12th house people. They don't know how to streamline the energy, and then they become open, and then it just like goes all over the place. That's the whole thing here. The only way I can describe it is like when you are using tarot cards, right? When you're using tarot cards, it's opening up the energy, so you're picking up on everything that's there, right? That's kind of how 12th house people are. They have to figure out how to streamline the energy. Now, other things like the basics, usually like, you know, staying away from drugs, substances, caffeine, like anything that makes you overly open, energetically open, overly like active in that way. That's really the whole thing here. Let's see what else you guys saying in here. You said the only planet you have in your 8th is Jupiter in Cancer. You believe you inherited your late granny's lotto luck, money, attraction has been crazy. That's awesome. You said you're an artist in areas, but you gave it up to work jobs you hate. You're welcome. You said in multiple areas. Yeah, here's the thing. Okay, here's the thing. We have to learn how this like plane works, right? So sometimes you have to work the boring job, but it's like, I think to myself sometimes, and it's like, it's not about being fully healed. I think it's just about like the strength of either the desire or the wound, right? Because what I was thinking about once is like people who become successful, right, are the people who are persistent. It has nothing to do with anything else. It's the people who continue working toward that thing. So sometimes you have to like reshift your focus. Like I've worked so many jobs, right? And it's like sometimes I would get sucked into those jobs, and like when you get sucked into the job, you think it's just that, right? You kind of lose the sense of like, this is what I'm actually trying to do. Like the job is just getting me money to get to where I'm trying to go, right? So if you can kind of like change your perspective and just look at it as like a means to an end, the energy stops being invested into that thing. Is just kind of helping you kind of fund this other thing, right? Because it's like sometimes you have to do that, right? Like I know people out here are trying to sell like law of attraction and manifestation courses, but at the end of the day, it really depends on your whole like energetic background, right? Because like the whole law of attraction manifests money. Like, yeah, that works for people who have had money their entire lives. Do you know what I mean? Like, yeah, of course, like you're used to that. So obviously you're going to bring more of that into your life. But the trick here is like when you're not used to that energy, how can you get to that, right? How do you get to that from like being used to being in, let's say, a 9 to 5 or whatever it is, right? So that's where you kind of have to go through the whole self-exploration is really what that is. And then again, it's perception, changing the way that you see it, kind of just like really pushing through. It's kind of really survival of the fittest if you really think about it. Like, let's see what else are you guys saying in here. You said confirmation to find my art career, your Leo rising daughter who paints. Absolutely. You said, oh, you got injured at your last job, about to get a nice settlement. Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that, but nice to get some money, honey. Let's see what else are you guys saying in here. Let's see. Low vibration, Scorpio energy, compulsive Debbie Downer energy. Yeah, and also unhealed Scorpio can be like a vortex and like a vacuum. They're like pulling you in. It's really strong, okay? The unhealed Scorpio energy can be really strong. It kind of feels like a vacuum. And it's like if you don't have strong boundaries and if you're unaware, you can really get sucked into it. And then it's like this whole karmic thing and it's like, what's even happening? Let's see what else you guys saying in here. You said, let's face it, through material death, the soul is just ending another experience. The consciousness is just experiencing itself. Absolutely. Were there any books that I read that helped me understand astrology? Here's the thing. You can literally learn astrology anywhere. Like, you can learn it anywhere. The thing is, you have to feel into it. I always say this, you know, because it's like, I don't know, like everywhere you read, like any book that you read is all gonna say the same thing. Jupiter in Pisces means this, you know, Pluto in Sag means that. Like it all means the same thing. It's up to you about how you're gonna put it all together is really what that is. Lilith in Taurus, first house, what does that mean? That's your dark side, your shadow self. First house sometimes will do anything to get to the top, anything to get like the gains, these types of things, okay? First house, like sometimes they'll trample over other people. They can be selfish. It can go into like narcissistic traits, but it's like, it doesn't mean you're a narcissist. Keep this in mind. Everyone has these traits within them. It's just the nature of the plane, right? Again, it's that survival of the fittest. What else? First house. That's pretty much for the first house. The Taurus energy can be shadowy when it comes to money. They can be petty when it comes to money. They can be in scarcity when it comes to money when you have Lilith and Taurus. You said you think you change 100 jobs by now. It is just to help for a while. Exactly. You write, draw, play piano, and take photos. It is about being really consistent. Exactly. You said it's hard with ADHD, but what can you do? That's really what it's all about. Honestly, it's consistency, because it's the whole thing is like where energy goes, or it's where attention, how does it go? Where attention goes, the energy flows, or where energy goes. Yeah, it's where the attention goes, the energy flows. Okay. So whatever you're focusing on, right? If you're working toward that thing actively, like there's no way for it not to come through. Let's say it's a goal, dream, or desire. It's just a matter of time. I feel like people who are a little bit more spiritual or metaphysical struggle with that concept, because in the spiritual planes, things are more instantaneous. They're faster. Money is not so much a thing, but it is what it is. Like that's the game down here. Do you know what I mean? And it's just unfortunate because sometimes spiritual people completely bypass this and they're gonna be like, money doesn't matter, or money's evil, and like all these types of things. But it's just like, it is what it is. Like the plane is like this, you know what I mean? So it's easier to learn the game like while we're in it versus trying to escape it. That's why I feel like also a lot of 12 house people like reincarnate on the earth plane, because it's like they have a lot of spiritual knowledge, but they haven't learned how to apply it to the material plane, right? We're slowly moving out of this, yes, but for now it's like this. So it is what it is. Let's see, what else are you guys saying in here? Okay. Germ the Maggie says, you're welcome. You said, how can you attract more with having a Venus and Scorpio in the 9th house? My recommendation for Venus and Scorpio is to not try to cut corners, but to learn about investments. That's what I'm going to say for Venus and Scorpio. Like Venus and Scorpio, again, with the Scorpio energy, they're always going to be attracted to fast money, get rich quick, you know, get this thing, get that thing. And it's like, with Scorpio, it's like easy come, easy go. That's why sometimes they can fall into gambling. Taurus can too, they bounce off of each other. But more so Scorpio, they're trying to trick the energy of the plane, right? So with that being said, you know, if you do this in like an ethical way, maybe invest, learn about investments, these types of things, you could get your money that way. Okay, you could with the Venus and Scorpio energy. But Scorpio and karma, interestingly enough, are very closely connected, because it's ironic, because through Scorpio trying to get things fast and the money fast, they entangle themselves in karma, and then they're spending the time undoing the karma, whereas they could have just kind of like done it in a way to actually end up getting the same goal, right? It's the whole thing what I was saying about the nature of the plane, right? It's just karmic down here. There's karma. We're ruled by karma. It is what it is, you know? So that's the whole thing for Venus and Scorpio. I have seen a lot of wealthy people have Venus and Scorpio, people who have like luxurious, like, you know, like lifestyles, like these types of things, or like luxurious things, because Scorpio bounces off of Taurus. So they do want these things, but it's hidden, right? It's behind the scenes. And then you have Venus in the 9th house. That's a higher mind, higher learning. It could be philosophies, all these types of things could bring you through abundance. Let's see. So you fell into that trap of money. Do not matter when you used to watch a lot of spiritual people on your spiritual journey. Do not fall into it. Exactly. The existence is dualistic. You will still be here. Exactly. That's another trap. So that's a trick in this plane, is really, really what that is. Okay. So it is what it is. It's easier to just learn the plane and the rules and to like have some form of goal and work toward that goal. The plane is Saturnian. Okay. So what gets rewarded down here is hard work, effort, persistence, mainly persistence, because it's Saturn. Saturn keeps knocking you down until you kind of get to that end goal. And that's just what it is, routine, because it's Virgo like, and it's this, right? So it is what it is. Okay, guys, I'm going to sign off. Thank you so much for being here. If you guys are interested in your own readings, you guys can find that in the description box below. Thank you for your questions, the likes, the shares, and the subscribes. And I hope you all have a beautiful rest of your